Okay, everybody ready? Okay. Well, good afternoon, and thanks for being with us today. I am joined by Spokane County Commissioner Mary Cuney, Police Chief Craig Meidel, and Spokane County Under Sheriff and Sheriff-elect John Knowles. We wanted to take a few minutes today to address the continued interest in the activity at the Washdot encampment and the recent developments that impact those who are staying in that encampment and those who are living and working in the neighborhood there. So those developments include changes at the Trent Resource and Assistance Center, or TRAC, additional police presence for the safety of those in the neighborhood, and also the current legal developments that are going on. We also will address the educational information that was provided at the encampment about 2 weeks ago. Just to let you know, and I want to be upfront with this, we are limited about what comments that we can make because of litigation, but we feel it's important to provide the community with some perspective on what those developments are and what they mean for the safety and the health of everyone involved. So as we speak, updates are being made to TRAC at the request of the Salvation Army and based on the feedback that we've received from those at the facility. The previous beds and mattresses are being replaced with 350 brand new metal beds and mattresses, and that's because it'll provide greater durability and ease of cleaning. Additional partitions are being installed to create 4 bed pods that will make better use of the space there and also increase privacy for those who are in the facility. We expect those upgrades to be completed this week. More than 100 community volunteers are giving their free time this week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday before Christmas, to help get people out of the cold. A second shower trailer, new office space, more hand washing stations, and additional outdoor storage have been added over the past couple of weeks, which Commissioner Cuney will discuss in greater detail. And we've also been working very closely with the Salvation Army since they took over last month to identify those important updates and the feedback that we're getting from those who are there. Our partnership with Spokane County, I'll just say, has been absolutely critical in making these updates happen and covering the cost of those. So I want to publicly acknowledge and credit and thank the county for those efforts. We've also been able to work quickly and manage the volume of moving parts because of the collaboration and the work that's going on at the Emergency Operations Center. We have stayed focused on the best solutions for the neighborhood through our work there and also those staying in the encampment. The result is, last night, we were able to give 332 people a warm place to stay as temperatures dipped into the teens, and it will get much colder this week. With the hard work and the commitment of everyone involved, no one, may I repeat, was turned away, and we brought people in out of the cold. That's what a caring community is able to do, and Spokane certainly has shown that we do that time and time again. I also want to acknowledge and thank the State Departments of Transportation and Commerce for meeting with the city on a nearly weekly basis for the past several months. Those conversations have also been vital to the work that we are doing, and we think there is an opportunity for those engagements to play an important role as we move forward. I will transition briefly to the legal case that is going on because I know that those conditions are of interest this week. We look forward to presenting our case to the court. The parties have discussed the potential of a new date, but that has not been finalized, so we don't know when exactly that will happen. When the matter is heard, though, legal counsel will outline the dangers of the winter weather and what it poses, the opportunity to access all of the same services from a warm space with a warm meal, and also detailing the considerable impact to the neighborhood over the past year and 2 months since the fencing around the encampment has gone up. Those details will be presented during court proceedings sometime, we hope, in the very near future. Until those arguments are made to a judge, we are limited to our ability to take affirmative action to move people into a warm place. We want to be clear that the law enforcement that will continue to address crimes in the neighborhood and in the camp are the types of services we would provide anywhere. Our outreach earlier this month at the camp was an effort to provide information and education, and also to engage with those staying there to offer alternatives to get out of the cold weather. Our priorities are twofold: getting people out of the cold while they connect to services, and making sure that the neighborhood knows that we are still working on their behalf. Families, business owners, employees, students, and school staff have endured a great impact, and we have to remain solution-focused. Sheriff-elect Knowles will talk in greater detail about the results of the outreach that I just mentioned, but first let me turn it over to Commissioner Cuney and then Chief Meidel.
Thank you, Mayor. So the weather this week is expected again to snow, and temperatures are predicted to be in negative degrees. Simply stated, this is not a safe situation for the people living and sleeping in this environment in basically a frozen field. Furthermore, our hospitals are at capacity, so we want to make sure we get these people into a safe environment so we don't have unintended injuries from the cold that would drive them into those stressed hospitals at this point in time. It's also beyond time that the East Sprague neighborhood to receive relief from the burden of this camp. I still represent this district at this point in time, and these people that reside, work, and visit East Sprague deserve a safe environment to function. Right now, they don't feel safe in their homes. People are afraid to go to work. People are not going to some of the businesses in that area because they don't feel that it's safe to do their grocery shopping. So it's important that we get these people into a safe environment that they can get out of the element. On October 25th, at the request of the sheriff, the Board of County Commissioners activated the Emergency Operations Center, bringing together local agencies to find solutions for those staying in the camp and the impact that this had on the neighborhood. It was at that time then that the EOC has continued to meet multiple times a week to find these solutions for relocating occupants to indoor locations where individuals can be connected with resources. The Trent Resource and Assistance Center TRAC has become the primary transitional navigation center. In early November then, at the EOC, it was determined that there was a need for additional space, offices, showers, and so it was on November 8th that the Spokane County Commissioners provided over $500,000 in emergency funding to invest in the TRAC shelter. It was because of that that we knew that it was going to take time to get these items in place. It wasn't going to happen, as everyone knows, with the supply issues, that we could just order and get them in the next day. So because of having the EOC and activating and working with our partners, we knew the need. And so that need is being coming to fruition today, as there is over 120 volunteers at the fairgrounds putting together those 350 beds, the privacy partitions, 800 sets of bedding supplies, the 8-stall shower trailer that has been put in place, 2 portable office trailers that have been put in place, so that way there's a safe place for people to be seen and in privacy. In addition, through all of that, then there was also the business community that came together with $35,000 to provide the storage bins, large and small, for individuals to house their stuff. As we approach some very dangerous weather conditions, I want to emphasize that we need everyone at the table at the EOC. So I ask the other agencies that haven't come before to come to the EOC so we can find solutions and help these people that need it desperately. The other thing I want to make sure is that as we move forward, that we're inviting the people that are providing those services, those wraparound services at the camp, to come to TRAC, continue to do those services for those people in need, that we want to see them get into other housing options. And so again, we ask, come to the table, we want to find those solutions, we want to help these people. I now will ask Chief Meidel to come up.
Thank you, Commissioner, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. As you can imagine, the Spokane Police Department hears from a variety of our community members, and we have been a consistent and regular presence in that neighborhood where the Washington State Department of Transportation camp is for the last several months. Our goal is to make sure that those who live and work in that area or visit that area can do so in a safe environment. We're often asked about crime that is occurring within that area as well. Historically, we will look for crime trends to determine where to deploy our resources and what types of crimes are occurring in that area as well. So we have been tracking the crime trends that are occurring within a quarter mile of the camp since that camp was instituted December of 2021. Our objective in this neighborhood, just like in any other neighborhood, is to prevent people from being victimized and to respond to calls as quickly as we can, whether it's in the neighborhood or at the camp itself. Unfortunately, crime is up in the neighborhood. When you compare the number of calls that are to that area within a quarter mile since October of this year, which is about when the fence went up, we have seen a 58% increase in calls compared to the same time last year within a quarter mile of that camp, including the camp itself. When we average that out over the last 4 years and compare October of this year to the end of November, we've seen a 68% increase in calls. When we talk about crime, those numbers are even more troubling. When we're looking at crime that has occurred in that area within a quarter mile since October of this year, we have seen an 85% increase in crime. And when we look at a 3-year trend of crime during that same time frame of the year, which would be October 1st to the end of November, we've seen an almost 70% increase in crime compared to the 3-year trend. So the Spokane Police Department, in response to noticing the increase in crime several months ago, stationed 2 officers outside that camp to be a visible deterrent to respond to calls that may be occurring within that immediate area as well. That so far has cost the city about $400,000 in overtime since we've been staffing that specifically for that camp. We also do appreciate the sheriff partnering and helping to provide resources for this area as well. As you can imagine, it is a large drain on law enforcement resources for that area, and they have been very gracious in providing additional staffing for us as well. We are also working with the sheriff's office on developing a more robust program to help drive down these crime numbers and to be an even stronger visible presence in that area as well. I want to talk real briefly about the crime data this year compared to prior years as well. So we are looking at calls for service within a quarter mile of that camp for the year, starting of January of this year to the end of November. The calls for service have been up 72% in that area within a quarter mile area. When you compare that to the 4-year average, the calls for service to that area have been up 73%. Now, when we're talking about crimes, actual crimes that are reported for the same time period, 1 year, starting January 1st of this year to the end of November, the crimes that have been reported to us in that area are up 79% this year compared to the prior year. And we're looking at a 3-year trend. The crime is up in that area 62% this year compared to the 3-year trend as well. So we know we have issues and concerns in that area. We know we've talked to a lot of frustrated neighbors. We've talked to a lot of frustrated businesses in that area. In addition to Spokane Police Department working that area along with the Spokane County Sheriff's Office, there's also private security at the Tapio Center. We know that the Department of Transportation has hired private security for the camp itself. And then we also know that Fred Myers has had to hire off-duty officers as well. So there are extensive resources in that area because a lot of the issues that are really reoccurring in that area over and over again. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Sheriff-elect Knowles.
Thank you, Chief. I believe the statistics that the Chief just gave you are fairly compelling and do paint a very clear picture of the issue of Camp Hope in the East Central community. The Sheriff's Office is more than willing and glad to partner with the police department to take whatever actions necessary to provide relief to that neighborhood. We need the citizens and the businesses who live and work in that area to know that we hear them and that we are going to do everything in our power to help address the crime that is unfortunately occurring surrounding that camp. Homelessness is not a crime. Being homeless or being unhoused is not a crime. However, there is a portion of the occupants at Camp Hope who have decided to utilize crime as a tool to support their habits or to support themselves, and it is having an adverse effect in that neighborhood, a severely adverse effect in that neighborhood. We in law enforcement, now with the legal action that is in place, have been left with using just law enforcement tools to address the camp. It is my belief, it is Sheriff Knezevich's belief, that the best way to address that camp is through non-law enforcement means of moving that camp somewhere safe and somewhere where it does not negatively impact that community. Sheriff Knezovich would like me to state that we have been taking law enforcement actions in and around that camp for the last several months. We have made several arrests, some very recently, where we have arrested people with possessions of large quantities of fentanyl, firearms, and stolen vehicles. These are the types of crimes that we will continue to focus on. We will identify people inside the camp who have warrants, identify people inside the camp who are dealing drugs, identify people surrounding the camp who are dealing drugs to occupants inside, and we will take enforcement action to keep that community safe. I talked earlier about liking or would want to not take law enforcement action to help solve this problem. Everybody here knows what community-oriented policing looks like, and that is activities that the police take with the community, in conjunction with the community, not just citizens, but also with mental health workers, social workers, and people like that to help address a problem, part of the larger solution. When I hear what was described in our activities down at the camp on December 6th and 7th, I wonder how accurate those statements were. I heard people say that we were taking forced entry into the camp, that law enforcement resources were being wasted there, and that our actions intimidated and antagonized camp occupants. I have reviewed the body-worn camera for several of the deputies and officers there at the camp that day, and their actions were everything but what was just described. We have several redacted videos available to the media here if you'd like them. We also have about 3.5 minutes of video clips ready for you here today to watch, so you can see with your own eyes what good community-oriented policing looks like. We utilize members of our behavioral health unit, which is a co-deployed team between Spokane County Sheriff's Office, Spokane Police Department, the Spokane Valley Police Department. We also utilized our homeless outreach teams. We had social workers with us as well as behavioral health workers when we went into that camp to hand out flyers solely with the intent of providing information to members of our community so they knew what options were available for them. And as you will see, we were very overt from the beginning that it was not our intent to take any enforcement action or clear the camp. I will remind you, in the material that was provided, it did say that the camp was to be closed. And again, as an additional reminder, everyone involved in addressing the issues of Camp Hope, to include the Department of Commerce, the Department of Transportation, the governor, even the Attorney General, has stated the camp will close. So please, if we could play the video, it will show the activities of law enforcement on December 6th.
We're trying to confirm right now if Washout's going to allow you guys on the property without a warrant or without a probable cause, because it's a closed community and you have to dash to go through. So we're waiting on confirmation for that.
How does that work? Do you have like a contact person?
Yeah, so we contacted Ruger from Washout, and he hasn't gotten back to us yet.
Is there usually a time frame?
Yeah, the Info Empire Health and Commerce are on their way down. We'll be able to make a better decision than we will. We just,
Whatever that decision is.
Yep.
Entirely.
Okay.
For you, we just want to let you know that's our goal. Show up, walk through, make contact. Here's the new stuff we can put together. Take your.
All right.
You know, we're not pushing out. There's no enforcement. Absolutely no enforcement. Sean, I think that
George Chaz,
yeah, I'll reach.
these two people, I'm telling you, you look like John Metcalf out of us. You hear that? That's a compliment.
Thank you.
Oh, these people know. Oh, yes, these people are, we've paired up a lot. They are truly, truly helpful people. Truly. Why meeting great resistance? These are great people. I'm here to tell you that the Valley is amazing because they have people.
I think he's arrested before.
Well, how long ago, sister? Let's start there, you know.
I highly doubt.
what's happening?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're the person I'm supposed to call when somebody wants,
And you haven't called. Yeah, so
I recognize the name.
City of Spokane Valley, so it's just me doing it right now, and Amanda and I are partnering together, so.
Yeah, somebody told me that you practice when to call to get people in stabilization.
Yeah.
Because like I was really struggling with it for a while. Maybe something I can walk you through if you guys would like to go through. We can walk you through.
And that's all good?
Yes.
Okay. And then, but there's like 10.
Obviously, there's a lot of people, so there's more than two of us.
Yeah. So just us. Is that still okay?
Yeah, I think that would
Okay.
be fine.
And the idea was actually just to stay together.
Yes, so
We're
we
not
could
fanning out.
just be respectful of the fact that these folks have been terrorized by law enforcement for the last 3 months.
Not me though.
No, not you, but they don't see it that way. They see your uniform, they see that, and they panic. What we're trying to do is keep you guys safe
Sure.
from them reacting.
So if they don't want, like, we have no problem just like putting it at the base of the tent or something. If they don't want to interact, that's completely
Yep.
fine. We just want to be able to give them the option. That's it.
Okay.
So.
Yep, that'll work and I'll want them.
Lessons every day if we split the two groups and do like that's not.
Yeah, split however you guys want.
Somebody's staying in that.
Hello, anyone inside?
Mostly was abandoned.
Yeah, I can't tell.
Well, the entrance is covered with snow.
Yeah. Not sure if the entrance has any movies. Hello, Sheriff's Office. Just have some resources for you. Thank you, appreciate it.
We're trying to confirm right now if Washout's gonna allow you guys on the property without a warrant or without a probable cause.
So actually, I believe this other clip is an actual interaction between one of the Spokane Police Department officers and a camp occupant. What I would like to point out about those previous clips is this. Our officers were very clear, our deputies were very clear about their intent inside that camp. I will also point out that it was overheard, and it is in the longer versions of the videos that you can get. They're about 45 minutes each, where prior to us entering that camp, it was heard being told the occupants of the camp to go inside their tents, go inside their RVs, and do not interact with the police. They were directed to do that by somebody inside the camp. It is very hard to make a positive impact in a community and to become part of a community when you're being told by people there to not interact with us. Those are the kinds of things that we in Lossmore are trying to overcome. So let's watch this interaction. We had very, very few interactions with actual occupants of the camp, but this will show you what happened. And you tell me if this seems consistent with what you have heard from others in this community about what happened in Camp Hope on December 6th and 7th.
So it's just something in case you're interested.
Cool, thank you.
So we have the 3 filters. Fence over there.
Yeah.
Salvation Army, it sounds like they're running like a 3-tier thing, but they move to Cannon to the way out. But then if you're interested in like the stabilization center for withdrawal management or mental health, like it's a good place.
Yeah.
They work with Pioneer to get you into the services.
I'm from out of state, and I'm just waiting on my identification.
Okay, so we just wanted to stop by and hand out some flyers. Make sure that you guys know that there's other resources available, okay? Yeah, we just are worried about you guys staying outside and...
Got heat? No heat?
Well, I'm trying to get some from Snap.
So, we work with the behavioral health unit, and we do just want to let you know that, you know, this, you don't have to be here, that we hear that you want to work and you want to make a change, and we can help you do that. There's ways around it, you know? We know we just bought this trailer, but it's only gonna get colder and snowier. And I've been out here for 10 minutes and I'm already freezing, so I don't know. I don't see how you're doing it. You got a lot of strength in you, obviously, right?
Yeah, I know, it's something like I'm not afraid of it, it's like, getting housing, I don't know if I need houses. I mean, like, really, like, it's just that, right, the junction,
Change is scary, right?
yeah, I want to be able to get a job, I want to get a perfect job.
So it's just,
So one thing I'd like to add, and I apologize for standing up here too long, is this. Unfortunately, this is the type of police work that we are now prevented from doing inside Camp Hope. We are left with just our traditional law enforcement tools. Again, I will express that we are dedicated to working with the Spokane Police Department to make sure that that neighborhood is not as impacted by crime as it currently is. Thank you, and I believe Mayor Woodward has more comments.
Well, I think we're going to open it up to questions. If you have any questions, and make sure you direct them to one of the four of us. Or maybe there aren't any. That would be a first.
First of all, I guess question for, I think specifically you, Mayor, about the cold weather coming up. You mentioned that there were 332 people staying at Trent
Over the weekend, yep.
And, well, the number that we've been hearing about the capacity is around 350 from what the new building permit. And I was looking at the shelter dashboard earlier this morning to see what other availability was looking like. It looked like Cannon was closed. Some full, I should say, no beds available. And it seemed like there was still some limited availability at others. Are there any other plans from the city to open up another emergency warming shelter? We know the capacity limits at Trent at this point. We've also heard comments about flexing. But as we head into the rest of the week and potentially next week.
Well, track is our flex option for inclement weather, whether that's cold or heat or smoke. And so even though we had 332 over the weekend, we are prepared to go to 350 and beyond. Those new beds will be in place on Thursday, and we don't want to turn anyone away. So if that means a mat on the floor to increase the capacity there, we will do that.
Are there restrictions on, how many people can fit inside with the?
Our building inspector indicated that because of the size of that facility, it could be beyond 600. But we have to make sure that we have the staffing for that as well. Salvation Army has been working to increase their staffing to accommodate a surge that we're expected to see this week because of the weather, below freezing temperatures.
So no other operations planned at this point to open up? I know last year was at the convention center through the Guardians Foundation. Nothing else.
Well, we could go up to 450 at track.
At this point with the staffing levels and the beds?
That's what we're working on, yeah. Anybody else? Those numbers have been going back and forth. I do understand that there will be a number released this week from Department of Transportation for a count that just currently happened. And so we're eagerly anticipating that number. You may have heard in the news that the fire in an RV that occurred a couple of weeks ago at that encampment, our police chief or our fire chief was there, and they evacuated everyone, counted everyone who returned, and at that time it was about 240. So yeah, those numbers have gone back and forth.
you guys had data from October to October, data on crime before and after the fence went up?
Let you do that part.
That's correct. So that October date you heard me say at the beginning was basically the date where the fence went up around the, that whole area, correct?
Is the data say from November to September? So the numbers up in September, the fence went up, has the fence held?
The numbers show that the fence has not had an impact on crime in that area. In fact, the numbers show since the fence went up, and again, using the October 1st date, that shows that crime has gone up from October 1st to the end of November this year, 85%. And when you want to look, compare to the same time last year, and if you want to look at a 3-year trend, then the crime this year is up 69% compared to the same time frame averaged out over the last 3 years.
So far, the overtime, a lot of that's been visual, people in their cars during the day, basically. What is the distribution of calls at night versus during the day, and how does that inform your response in terms of whether it's present?
Yeah, so I don't have the data of what percentage of calls are at nighttime. One of the reasons we picked the daytime as well, and I'm sure you're all aware, is as the businesses came to us very shortly after the camp really started establishing itself and started experiencing just a plethora of issues. And so what we're trying to do is be mindful of how can we provide a visual deterrent and a quicker response to calls that may be related to the camp, but how do we also help those businesses? And I've spoken to the owner of Liberty Tire. There's the gas station there, Tapio Center, Fred Meyer's. So what we're trying to do is find that balance between providing protection for the camp, protection for the neighborhood, but also help the businesses out during the hours that they're open as well. So that was a driving factor of why we picked those hours.
Chief, another question for you, specifically about the crime trends that you spoke to. Obviously, the focus is on that quarter-mile area, but how does that speak to a broader trend here? Are you seeing an increase in crime elsewhere throughout the city and in the region as well?
So yeah, when you're looking at, and again, we can break it up by sectors, or we can break it up by the whole city. When you look at violent crime just in the city, 2% year-to-date compared to last year. When you're looking at property crime across the city, we're up 19% across the city. So the numbers surrounding that camp within a quarter mile are up exponentially more than the rest of the city. And then just real quick again, let's just talk about January 1st to the end of November of this year. When you're looking at violent crime, looking at a 3-year average for that area, violent crime in that area within a quarter mile is up 83% within a quarter mile of that area this year compared to last year, up 2% in the rest of the city.
How have those crime trends been affected by the presence of officers outside of the camp?
So that's a good question. So when you're looking at it, what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing is that instead of having a lot of the individuals that like to bring drugs and other things into that camp, and you heard Sheriff-elect Knowles say it's pushed them a little bit further out into the neighborhoods, or they're doing their deeds somewhere else. So we're still having the issue with crime. A good question would be, if we didn't have them there, what would crime look like in that area, which I don't know how you measure that. But what we are seeing is, at least within the couple block radius, those that were loitering, selling their drugs, armed with their guns, et cetera, has diminished. But we're still seeing that increase despite that presence.
Just speak to the EOC at this point. I know the last time we talked was after the county dedicated that money for the new beds at track. And then obviously we hear that there are volunteers building these beds. What can you say about the county's response and as well as the joint response to the EOC and the volunteers that are building those beds to replace the current ones that are there?
So the EOC, once we activate the EOC, it really is truly bringing all of our partners together so that we're seeing what the needs are and we're finding those solutions. So it's not just the county, it's the city, our city partners. Salvation Army's been there, the sheriff's office. So it's all those resources coming together so that way we can actually find the solution and do the best thing that we can. So with our emergency management team, they've been out searching for what are the beds that we can get. What do we need to do? We knew that these beds were going to be coming in, so how do we get them put together? And so that's where people sitting at that table are like, oh, I know the volunteers. I think it's, John, you can tell me, the Latter-day Saints is the group that their missionaries are providing that, the support that we have. We have several other groups that are going to be helping out over the next 3 days. But that's what I would say the beauty of the EOC is. It's not some mysterious thing. And it's really all of us coming together to find those solutions so we can get these people safe.
The city has major budget shortfalls, and their budget was for 250 people at track. What, if any, additional financial support is the county going to provide for that facility?
So we're hoping at this point, I would say hoping, because we need to be talking with Department of Commerce, but those right-of-way dollars that are coming into our community are for the people at Camp Hope. And so as they're transitioning, that is what those dollars are intended to do. And that's why I say, as those people transition, we are still welcoming the wraparound services that they're getting at the camp to come into these facilities to help them, navigate the system to get them into better housing.
Have you had conversations with service providers at this point? I know you're kind of asking for service providers who are working there to come. Has that been?
So yes, so we have not had a lot of them come to the EOC. There's been a couple that have shown up at the EOC on different occasions, but what we really need now is everybody to be coming together to talk. Again, lawsuits aside, we are there to have a conversation to find a solution.
So as far, without having it in front of me, but the restraining order currently precludes us from clearing the camp or taking any sort of action similar to that. It prevents law enforcement from doing any kind of surveillance activities that are that involves infrared or any similar type technologies. Specifically stated in that order, though, it does allow law enforcement to take normal law enforcement actions as we would anywhere else, and that is our intent. But I believe it does preclude us going in and dealing or addressing anything to do with the closure of the camp.
And the work that you showed us was great. Meeting these people, trying to let them know there is other places that they can go. So in terms of the outreach, you didn't go in there and arrest these people. You were just letting them know these are services out there. Are you under the impression that you can't do that?
I believe
Still go in and meet these people and try to build those relationships?
I believe we would have to be very careful to not do anything that would be misinterpreted as asking them to leave or vacate the premises. I believe the language in the TRO is such that I don't know that I would want to tempt a federal judge to hold us in contempt or violation of that order. So.
As a department, you've made the choice because of this restraining order. The outreach that we saw will not happen.
I will say we have no intent of doing another outreach like that anytime soon. Doesn't mean that that can't change in the future. We'll have to see. And again, there are hearings coming up with the temporary restraining order that the city and county will be involved with. So we'll see how that turns out. I mean, obviously we would prefer to be able to do outreach like you saw. I didn't get to say it earlier, but I'm incredibly proud of the work that our law enforcement officers did on those 2 days. I'm incredibly proud of all the work that the members of our Department of Emergency Management have done to get the Trent shelter up and running. It's been an amazing effort on our employees' part, and I don't want to forget to thank them for that. And the professionalism that was on display there was great. And that's why we wanted to show you that video. I think I also need to let you all know that if you want the redacted versions of these videos, they're both about 45 minutes in length. We have 2 specific videos already redacted and available for you. If you want to do a PDR request, I have the exact information for you should you want it after we leave here. So contact me for that.
You mentioned that you are, and Chief, you might have to speak on this too, you will go in and jail people, bring people out of the camp if they have committed crimes or there are warrants out for them. Can you guys at all speak on the number of people that you have found in this camp that have committed crimes who you have been able to take them out?
So I will say that I don't have an exact number of the number of people we have arrested. We have made several arrests in the last couple of weeks, as I alluded to earlier. We do believe that there are people who have warrants for their arrest or are committing crimes or have committed crimes that we have probable cause for that we will be looking for and arresting. And again, the temporary restraining order does not preclude us from doing that, nor should it. I think everybody agrees that we need to keep the community safe, but we also need to keep the law-abiding and innocent people living inside that camp safe as well, and we will do that.
What was the practical effect of the outreach? Did you see a spike in access to services?
Well, the fact that it coincided with the weather turning cold, and the fact that the members of the camp were told before we went in there not to interact with us, it's really hard to judge what effect we had, other than upsetting some people, outside the camp and things like that. We were told that, well, you heard the language that was used to describe the actions inside the camp. We also had some people reach out to us and say, man, we were so heavy-handed. Why did we have to have so many people? I think we had about 12 people in there, and you heard Julie Garcia at the beginning tell us that she wanted to come in with us to protect us from the occupants of the camp and how they would react. That is what I would respond to the people who asked us why we went in with so many people. Even Julie Garcia understands that there could be a potential for the people inside that camp to be dangerous. That's why we showed up with the numbers we did. And I would also like to state that we were only in the camp for about 14 to 15 minutes. We were stood out in front of the camp waiting to be allowed access far longer. So I think when you see what happened as a whole, it paints a very different picture than what has been portrayed publicly up until now.
How was the decision made to go back for a second day? Was that always the plan, or was that response to something?
Yes, we had always planned to be there more than one day, and in fact, until the temporary restraining order, we probably would have still been doing those kinds of outreaches.
Do you know how much it costs? We heard a little bit about the overtime cost of the officers stationed outside. Do you know how much that operation costs?
Well, I mean, again, we're maybe a half hour, 45 minutes, but I believe everybody was on duty, which is part of the reason we chose the days we did. Our behavioral health unit is staffed such that we could do that. So, as far as raw dollars, I don't know off the top of my head, but we can figure that out for you.
But it wasn't mandatory overtime?
No.
Sheriff-elect, one more for you. This is the first time we've heard from you at one of these briefings at the EOC. Just at this point, your take on the EOC and you've taken over the department's operations next year, and the role the department has played, but also, just your take on the situation in general. Have you visited the camp, and just, what do you think are the path forward as, you take over in the next year?
That's a lot of questions.
It is. I'm known for that.
So I believe that the creation and use of the EOC in this instance has been vital to the resources exponentially growing in Spokane. We needed it to happen. I will credit Sheriff Knezovich for, I think, putting a spotlight on an issue in our community that needed to be resolved. And we are resolving it. I'm not sure that it's going the way that Sheriff Knezovich would have liked to have gone. I know he's very, very concerned about the community surrounding Camp Hope. I think that with the EOC being stood up and with us maybe repairing and rebuilding some relationships with Empire Health Foundation and with the Department of Transportation and Department of Commerce, that we as a group in the Emergency Operations Center can absolutely resolve this problem that we're dealing with in our community, and not just short term. Make no mistake, as we do reduce the size and eliminate Camp Hope, we are going to have an ongoing issue to make sure that this issue doesn't resurface. We are going to have to come up with long-term partnerships with the Department of Transportation and the Department of Commerce to address this issue. Our community does need more resources, and the state is part of that solution. So I'm very, very proud of what we've accomplished so far. Going forward in the Sheriff's Office in the future, I look forward to leading the agency. I will focus on building relationships and making sure that we're an effective partner to both the city and county and our surrounding communities.
Have you visited the camp? I know I asked that.
I have not actually personally been inside the camp. I have been on the outskirts of the camp. So.
And I feel like a lot of the time that we've been here, there's always been a date for closure that we've been eyeing pretty seriously. Are we at the point now with litigation coming up soon? Do you guys not have a date now that you're really eyeing?
I do not mean to speak for anybody else, but I do know that with the litigation and with the temporary restraining order, that will largely dictate any closure of the camp.
From a law enforcement standpoint, are you hearing about growing camps elsewhere in the community? Is something that you're hearing a lot about? Is that something that you're witnessing?
Well, I think we all understand that there's going to be a certain part of our homeless population that is shelter resistant. And what our discussions right now are, okay, long term, how do we prevent these encampments from becoming large, up to as many as I think 600 is what it was estimated at one point. I mean, clearly we cannot allow an establishment of another camp of this size. The Department of Transportation also agrees that they cannot allow this to happen on other DOT right-of-ways. So we just had a discussion this morning about, okay, what long-term do our efforts look like? And in a law enforcement aspect, we need to make sure that we are out contacting any camps that might establish themselves and make sure that they understand where the resources are and that we don't let them get established without trying to get them into the shelter space that we actually have available. That will be an ongoing effort.
This last one is for the mayor. You mentioned in your remarks that you're having ongoing conversations with DOT and Commerce and state agencies. Are you able to characterize what those discussions have been like in recent days or weeks?
Well, we're trying to build that relationship. It's been a little bit rocky, as you know, and moving forward, we intend to engage even more with some of the other partners, including Empire Health. They're doing the work out there. We're very, very thankful for the service providers, CAT, Revive, who's at track right now, working with people as they come in from Camp Hope. We know that there are about 85 people who have identified themselves at track as coming from Camp Hope. I'm thankful for the partnership that we have with the county to get to where we are, the improvements that we're making at that facility right now to make it easier for people to walk in that door, stay so that they can get connected to services as they wait out whatever housing option will be for them in the future. And I believe that you will all get a media opportunity this week to come and see what is going on with the beds as they're assembled and the army of volunteers that are there. We have a very compassionate community. We were so incredibly surprised, pleasantly surprised by the amount of people who wanted to turn out and help us in this effort. And I think that speaks a lot to what we are and who we are. And I'm very thankful for that. We've made some mistakes. I'll just tell you that. We've learned, we've never had an operation or a facility that can accommodate this number of people ever in our region. And a lot of work is going into making it better all the time. And that's why we're doing the partitions, we're changing out the beds, we're adding amenities. And at some point, it's all about getting people the help that they need and to move them along in their journey out of homelessness. So I think that's gonna be it, you guys. Thank you very much for showing up. Appreciate it.
If you're just now joining us, county and city officials just spoke about Camp Hope updates and activities around the area. It began with Mayor Nadine Woodward, who provided a bed update and said that 332 people were at the Trent shelter and no one has been turned away. She also mentioned she's very thankful for county efforts in this effort. And they're also talking about one of the big things was law enforcement presence at Camp Hope about 2 weeks ago. And to clarify that, Sheriff-elect, excuse me as I pull up my notes, Sheriff-elect John Knowles said, first of all, he was glad to partner with the SPD on this, but then cited a temporary restraining order, and this is where things got a little fuzzy. Originally, Sheriff-elect Knowles said that the restraining order prohibited them from doing education efforts, but sort of also not really backtracked, but mentioned that while that's not explicitly true, they don't want to do things that could possibly violate the restraining order. Now, what this restraining order does prohibit is certain kind of surveillance, such as infrared, and going into the camp for an unlawful taking of arresting of people or taking of their personal belongings. But the restraining order does not explicitly prohibit education efforts. But again, they are preparing, the county is preparing their legal case and have mentioned that they have limited actionable ability. Also among the speakers was County Commissioner Mary Cuney, who reps the East Sprague area. She says they are working to clean up that area to make residents feel safe because they have heard those calls, and they are investing money. I believe it's about $400,000 to improve the Trent shelter, but that they also had trouble ordering beds due to supply chain issues. SPD Chief Craig Meidel was among the speakers. They've been tracking crime trends in the area since Camp Hope opened and mentioned that crime is up about 58% in the quarter-mile area in and around the camp. And on a 3-year trend, it's about 70% increase. And that's cost about $400,000 in overtime to increase the law enforcement presence in that area. They also mentioned that private security firms have been hired by some of the surrounding businesses in order to protect themselves. Sheriff-elect Knowles answered a couple questions and provided body camera footage, which was not asked for by media. It was provided by the sheriff's office, so that's the select footage, and it showed some interactions between law enforcement and Camp Hope residents and Camp Hope officials, and we will have those full videos in just a moment. We'll also have more information about this press conference in the 4 News Now at 4 p.m., which is not at 5 p.m. today due to Monday Night Football, but you can also watch the full press conference on our YouTube page at 4 News Now. But for now, live in the KXLY News Center, Rob King, 4 News Now.